I'm Teisha with Shalom TV News Update for Wednesday, November the 13th, 2013. A Palestinian teenager stabbed an IDF soldier to death this morning on a bus at the Afula bus station. The soldier, named as 18-year-old Eden Atias, was a resident of Nazareth Elite. He had enlisted in the army only a few weeks ago and was on his way back to his base when he was attacked. National Police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld said Atias was critically wounded at the scene and taken to the regional hospital in Afula, where he died soon after surgery. Security guards apprehended the assailant, 16-year-old Hussein Jawadra, and turned him over to Israeli security forces. Jawadra told investigators later that he stabbed the soldier because he has relatives held in prison in Israel. Jawadra, who is reportedly from the Jenin area, has two cousins in prison in Israel, one of them who is serving 3 life sentences for the murder of 2 Israelis and for several counts of attempted murder. The second was jailed for 12 years for attempted murder. The Times of Israel reports that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said that the Palestinian negotiating team has resigned over lack of progress and in response to Israeli construction in the West Bank. Abbas told an Egyptian TV station that despite the resignation, he believes talks will continue in about a week or two. Abbas said either we can convince the negotiating team to return and we're trying with them, or we form a new delegation. In a statement to Reuters, Palestinian head negotiator Saeb Erekat said that talks with Israel had been frozen for the time being, saying in reality the negotiations stopped last week in light of the settlement announcements. Yesterday, Israel's housing ministry published tenders for the planning of about 20,000 apartments in the settlements. Later that same day yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered those plans to be pulled back, saying the move to push forward tens of thousands of new units over the Green Line was, quote, a meaningless step that would create pointless tension with the international community. Jewish Agency Chairman Natan Sharansky and Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat called for the urgent release of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard yesterday, which marked the beginning of Pollard's 29th year in prison. The leaders were addressing the General Assembly of the Jewish Federations of North America at their closing ceremony in Jerusalem last night, where Sharansky urged an end to the, quote, gross injustice of Pollard's long imprisonment. Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat echoed the sentiment and urged those gathered at the GA to speak in a unified voice and demand Pollard's release. Barkat said, on the issue of unity, there is one person I want to mention who is missing here today. He is an honorary citizen of Jerusalem. He should be here today. His wife Esther is here with us today. The person who is sorely missing is Jonathan Pollard. Barkat said Pollard has paid the price and it was enough. He told the GA delegates, go back to America and take this message with you. Tell your president Israel wants Jonathan Pollard home now. Yesterday, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro also addressed the GA, and when he was asked about presidential clemency for Pollard, Shapiro responded that unusual circumstances are required for President Obama to get involved in the matter, and that there is no reason to expect that the Pollard matter will be handled differently. Esther Pollard, who was in the audience at the GA, said that she was deeply disappointed by Shapiro's remarks. She said the, quote, unusual circumstances are so compelling that people like Natan Sharansky, along with so many leading former American government officials and world-class notables, have repeatedly, personally, and publicly appealed to President Obama to release Jonathan. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon will visit Auschwitz-Birkenau next week. The UN announced today that Ban will arrive at the former Nazi death camp on Monday to pay tribute to the victims of the Holocaust and stress the importance of the UN's work for genocide prevention, tolerance, and peace. A delegation from the Friends of the IDF recently participated in the FIDF National Leadership Mission to Israel to show their appreciation and support for Israel's soldiers. Over 60 prominent FIDF leaders from across the United States arrived in Jerusalem at the beginning of this month for the week-long mission. The group met with soldiers and commanders on various military bases across Israel, including the Gaza Division's headquarters of Re'em and the Intelligence Corps training base on the Golan Heights. They also met with several top-level IDF and government officials, including Israel's President Shimon Peres. The mission was led by National Chairman Neely Falik, National President Julian Josephson, and National Director and CEO, Major General in Reserve Yitzhak Jerry Gershon, who said the Friends of the IDF delegation, which has embarked on this important journey to Israel, signifies the deeply rooted connection between the Jewish people, the State of Israel, and the brave soldiers who serve to protect it. President of the Union for Reform Judaism, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, addressed the Israeli Knesset yesterday in a session of the Knesset Caucus for Israel-U.S. Relations, held by Knesset member Dr. Nachman Shai in cooperation with the Ruderman Family Foundation. The session's theme was Jewish Dialogue 2013, What are the Boundaries and Limitations? In his address, Jacobs urged the need for religious pluralism in Israel. He said Reform, Conservative, and Reconstructionist Jews believe deeply that the time is long overdue for the State of Israel to support, accept, and validate the authentic Judaism that we practice every day and everywhere in freedom, except here in our beloved Jewish homeland. Jacobs cited inequalities in rabbinical courts in Israel, at weddings, funerals, and at the Western Wall. He also reiterated the strong commitment to Israel's security, human rights in Israel, and commitment to a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians live side by side in peace and security. The Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations released a statement today calling on the U.S. government to assure that the Iraqi Jewish archives that are currently on display in Washington, D.C. would be protected and continue to be accessible to Iraqi Jewish communities around the world. As we reported to you yesterday, the Jewish artifacts were discovered by American troops in 2003 after the ousting of Saddam Hussein. They are currently on exhibit in Washington, D.C.'s National Archives and set to be returned to Iraq after the exhibit is over. Today's statement from the Conference of Presidents Chairman Robert Sugarman and Executive Vice Chairman Malcolm Hoenlein called on U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry to consult with representative bodies of Iraq's expatriate Jewish community and officials before any further decision is made about their return. The conference leaders sent a letter with the statement and signatories of over 40 Jewish organizations across the political and religious spectrum to Kerry and White House officials explaining their concerns. Those organizations include the Anti-Defamation League, B'nai B'rith, the Orthodox Union, the Rabbinical Council of America, the World Jewish Congress, the Rabbinical Assembly, and the Jewish Federations of North America, among many others. The letter cites many ritual objects that are among the archives, particularly the Torah scrolls, that they say remain in disuse and uncertain conditions in Iraq, and urge the return of the scrolls and other items to synagogues of Iraqi Jews in the U.S. and elsewhere to be used by the communities there and their sanctity protected. They wrote that they see the Jewish protection of these archives as a moral responsibility and do not want to see the terrible injustices visited on the Jewish community of Iraq compounded by their being cut from future access to these vestiges of their rich culture and long history, urging Secretary of State Kerry and the White House to reconsider before any further decisions regarding the return of the artifacts to Iraq are made.
The only political leaders.
And tonight on Shalom TV, journalist and author Yossi Klein Halevi, who is also a fellow at the Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, joins Mar Galib on L'chaim to discuss his new book, Like Dreamers, the story of the Israeli paratroopers who reunited Jerusalem and divided a nation. That's tonight at 9 o'clock here on Shalom TV and shalomtv.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, November the 13th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.